to save her childhood friend's life. My wife had spent a fortune to snatch away the kidney that my mother-in-law had been waiting for 3 years. Before my mother-in-law died, she wanted to see her daughter one last time. But when I called her, she angrily accused me. Qin Yuan, can you please stop acting up? I finally got a kidney for Liu Fei. Can you stop trying to compete for my attention at this time? After that, she blocked my number. In the end, my mother-in-law didn't make it to see her daughter one last time. 7 days later, I returned home with my mother-in-law's ashes. As soon as I entered the door, I saw Liu Fei lying on my sofa while Su Wangshu was carefully attending to him. Where have you been all these days? Why haven't you answered my calls? Looking at my slightly angry wife, I calmly took out the divorce agreement from my bag and handed it to her. Su Wangshu, let's get a divorce. Looking at the divorce agreement I handed to her, Su Wangshu was clearly taken aback for a moment, but she soon reacted. She slapped the divorce agreement out of my hand, her eyes wide with anger. Qin Yuan, you disappoint me so much. I only took care of Liu Fei for a few days. Why do you have to resort to such childish tricks? If I really had something with Liu Fei, what would you have to do with it? Now, apologize to me right now, or else don't blame me for turning my back on you. Before I could speak, Liu Fei, who was lying on the sofa, stood up. Brother Yuan, I know it's not right for Wangshu to take care of me, but I'm in such a bad state right now. My parents died early, and Wangshu is my only friend in South Sea. As Liu Fei spoke, tears welled up in his eyes. Su Wangshu was heartbroken. She rushed to Liu Fei's side to support his hand. It's okay, I'm here. Don't be sad, or you'll hurt your wound, and all this surgery will be for nothing. Then, she turned to me, her eyes full of resentment. Qin Yuan, Liu Fei is like this, but he's still thinking about you. And you? You do nothing all day long. Do you even have any empathy at all? Watching the two sing in chorus, I could only laugh. I placed the divorce agreement on the table. Sign it and send it to me. If I don't receive it in 7 days, I will sue you in court and enforce a mandatory divorce. After saying this, I was about to leave, but my words seemed to have provoked Su Wangshu. She rushed in front of me like a madwoman and grabbed my arm. Qin Yuan, do you have to make a fuss at this time? It's a miracle that Liu Fei was able to live. As a living human, can't you be a little more caring? Caring? Putting all her love into an ex-boyfriend, even abandoning her own mother's life. What a truly moving love. I glanced at her and quietly took her hand off my wrist. I've made things very clear. You can think about what to do next. After saying this, I turned and left this foul home. Downstairs, I sat in the car and looked at the urn in my hand, unable to let go. My original intention was to have Su Wangshu handle my mother-in-law's funeral and then get a divorce. But who knew that she not only did not realize that her mother had passed away, but she also brought her ex-boyfriend home. Looking at it that way, she probably didn't have the mind to attend her mother's funeral. I sighed, and memories of the night I met her years ago flooded my mind. It was raining heavily that day, and I was hurrying home with my fishing gear. Just when I got downstairs, I saw Su Wangshu, crouching in the rain, hugging a bottle of wine and crying her heart out. I felt sorry for her, so I went over and held an umbrella over her. Su Wangshu looked up at me and kept asking me why love couldn't last forever. I felt sorry for her, so I just stood there and listened to her stories. She didn't hesitate to tell me all the grievances she had suffered at the hands of her ex-boyfriend, until she was too tired and fell asleep. I took her to my home and covered her with a blanket. The next day, when I woke up on the sofa, Su Wangshu was sitting in front of me, looking at me. Before I could speak, she spoke first. Why didn't you touch me? I'm not a grave robber. Why would I touch you? Did you help me because I'm pretty? I was speechless. If you're awake, you should leave. Do you really think that I like sleeping on the sofa? She smiled, grabbed my phone, and touched the screen with my finger. Before I could react, she had already added her contact. My name is Su Wangshu. Thank you for your help last night. When I get better, I will pursue you. After saying that, she turned and left. I thought she was just talking, but she actually did. She would often ask me to dinner and invite me out. Over time, I had some feelings for her. She would go fishing with me, and when it was dark, she would fall asleep on my shoulder. She would also play games with me, and even if she was so bad that she cried, she would still try. I asked her many times, if you didn't like these things, why would you do it with me? She told me, if you like someone, you have to like what they like. Even if I don't like it, I can learn. That day, I was dumbfounded. I thought I had met someone truly worth my love. I started to take the initiative and express my strong affection. We eventually got together and married. That day, my mother-in-law grabbed my hand, and her tears kept flowing. She told me that she was leaving Wangshu to me, and she hoped that I would take care of her from now on. I promised her. After marriage, our lives were normal. My mother-in-law treated me very well. She would always think of me first whenever she had something good. Even when I had arguments with Su Wangshu, she would always take my side. That time was the happiest time of my life. I thought everything would develop in a good direction. But everything changed when Su Wangshu's ex-boyfriend returned to the country. She seemed to have become a different person. She no longer went fishing with me or played games with me. She even resisted intimacy with me. Because of this, I had many arguments with her, but they always ended with my apology. Then after my mother-in-law was hospitalized, she became even more insane. She started smiling at her phone like an idiot. She started staying out at night. She, who never cared about dressing up, started wearing sophisticated and beautiful makeup. I wanted to divorce her many times, but I was stopped by my mother-in-law. Until today, I finally understood. I was just a replacement in her love story. When Liu Fei was not around, I was the best person for her to release her love. But when Liu Fei came back, I was the biggest obstacle between them. As my thoughts were flying, my phone suddenly rang. It was a call from the funeral home. After I answered, the person on the other side told me that everything was ready and asked me to come and select a burial plot. I didn't think much and put my mother-in-law's urn in the passenger seat and drove to the funeral home. It was already afternoon when I arrived. The staff explained the different styles of urns and the procedure for the burial. Then, they took me to the cemetery. My mother-in-law's grave was on the mountainside, a place she had chosen herself. She said that she didn't like the mountaintop because she was afraid it would be too high and cold, and she wouldn't be able to see us. I carried her urn, step by step, towards the mountainside. But before I even got there, I heard Su Wangshu and Liu Fei's voices. Looking up, I saw them hugging an urn in front of a grave. It's all my fault. I haven't been home for so long, and I let little Meow starve to death at home. Liu Fei said, tears in his eyes. Fei, don't say that. You have your own reasons. Little Meow won't blame you from heaven. Su Wangshu comforted him. While talking, she looked up and met my eyes. Qin Yuan, are you stalking me? I didn't want to talk to her, so I turned to leave. But this behavior was clearly seen as a guilty conscience in Su Wangshu's eyes. She angrily rushed forward and grabbed my arm. Qin Yuan, do you have to be so petty? Do you think everyone is as dirty-minded as you? I've told you countless times that Liu Fei and I are just friends. Do you have to stalk me? Have to follow me? I looked at her coldly. I'm not stalking you. Huh, you're not stalking me? Then why are you here? You can't be trying to tell me you're here to visit a grave. I didn't want to explain. If she had paid just a little attention to me, if she had paid just a little attention to her mother, then she would know that her mother had passed away. I turned to leave, but Liu Fei grabbed me. Brother Yuan, you really don't have to do this. Wangshu just came here with me to bury little Meow. Why do you have to be so aggressive? Aggressive? You think too highly of yourself. Do you think everyone is like you, trying to seduce other people's wives every day? Su Wangshu was enraged and rushed in front of me, yelling, Qin Yuan, watch your mouth. Watch my mouth. Am I wrong? An ex-boyfriend who isn't trying to mind his own business, but you two are together every day. What are you thinking? Do I have to spell it out for you? My words enraged Su Wangshu. She slapped me directly in the face. The force of the slap was so strong that it knocked me to the ground, and the urn I was holding fell to the ground at that moment. Clang! The ashes scattered all over the ground, along with the unburnt bone fragments. Qin Yuan, you've gone too far. I covered my face and looked at the ashes on the ground. I looked at Su Wangshu coldly. Do you know whose ashes those are? I don't care whose they are. Qin Yuan, I'm warning you. If you ever talk to Liu Fei like that again, I will make you regret it. I thought I had accepted Su Wangshu's betrayal. But when she yelled at me for Liu Fei and knocked over her mother's urn, I realized that I had underestimated her. Just when I was dazed, the cemetery manager came running over. Mr. Qin Yuan, the workers are ready. They can hold the encoffining ceremony for your mother-in-law, Zhao Chunmei, at any time. Do you know when we should start? When Su Wangshu heard this, she was stunned. What did you say? She looked at the manager, her face filled with disbelief. No need for the burial. Her ashes have been scattered by her own daughter. What did you say? The manager and Su Wangshu spoke at the same time. Then, they looked at the ashes and bone fragments on the ground. Their eyes were full of disbelief. No, impossible. Qin Yuan, you're lying to me. You're lying to me, right? I glared at Liu Ruoyan and said coldly, do you think I would joke about your mother's life? Do you know why she died? It was because of that kidney you spent a fortune on for Liu Fei. That was the kidney that your mother had been waiting for 3 years. She panicked and grabbed my hand. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I really didn't know. But it can't all be my fault, right? I was trying to save a life. Maybe because she was guilty, her voice got quieter and quieter. Yes, she admitted her mistake. But she was adamant that she was not wrong, and she was just trying to save someone. But Liu Fei's life was a life. And her mother's life wasn't a life? I shook her hand off. Su Wangshu, let's just end it here. From now on, let's pretend we never met. She stared at me intently, tears seemingly glistening in her eyes. I will compensate you. Could you please? Please think about me more. I've known Liu Fei for 20 years. I can't just watch him die. As she spoke, she slowly moved closer to me and hugged me. That warmth had once been what I longed for, but now, it just made me feel disgusted. You only have Liu Fei in your heart. For him, you can get an abortion, and for him, you can even throw away your mother's life. If that's the case, then go live with your Liu Fei. I pushed Su Wangshu away and left. But just as I was about to leave, she grabbed me. Honey, don't abandon me. Don't. Su Wangshu was teary-eyed, her voice full of tenderness, a side of her that I had never seen before. But now, I had no mood to respond to her tenderness. Let's go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow afternoon to get the divorce papers done. Su Wangshu froze, but she soon became enraged. Aren't you afraid that it will all end in chaos? I'm also sad about Mom, and I'm sorry to her, but I didn't know that the kidney was supposed to be for her. Ignorance is not a crime. Can't you understand me? And about the baby, yes, I did get an abortion. But that's not a big deal, right? It's just friends helping each other out. We can just have another one later. Everything she said was so reasonable, but she completely ignored me. She ignored how sad I was, someone who had loved her for 8 years. That was your mother, the one who raised you, the one who loved you the most in this world. But you think she should die for your ex-boyfriend? How ridiculous. And it's even more ridiculous with the baby. You're my legal wife. And you got an abortion because of what someone else said. And I have no say in it? Su Wangshu, how pathetic do you think I am to listen to all your BS? I completely exploded and ripped apart the facade between us. Her face turned red as she pointed at me, her eyes full of rage. Why? Why have you become so unreasonable? Why can't you understand my suffering? Understand? Then who will understand me? Who will understand your dead mother? Tell me. Su Wangshu buried her head and started crying. I didn't want to look at her anymore. Your mother's ashes are here. Either bury her with your ex-boyfriend's cat and let her body lie on the mountain, or bury her properly. The choice is yours. After saying that, I turned and left. Sitting in the car, the hand that I was holding the steering wheel with was shaking. This woman was now insane. I had to divorce her. If she didn't sign the divorce papers, then I would sue her in court. For me and for my mother-in-law. I drove away, found a lawyer, and made all the necessary arrangements. Then, I drove to my hometown, to my mother-in-law's small house. I lay on the sofa, looking at the ceiling, my mind filled with her. I was immersed in sadness. I don't know how long it was before I saw Su Wangshu again in court a month later. Compared to her smooth skin and beautiful face in the past, she looked much older and tired. She sat down across from me with a cold face. Su Wangshu was the guilty party, and after reading the evidence that I provided, the judge granted the divorce. As the wrong party, I received a huge compensation from Su Wangshu. My marriage with Su Wangshu did not survive the 7-year itch. It ended there. When I left the court, looking at the green divorce certificate in my hand, I finally relaxed and no longer felt suppressed. I looked at the bright sunshine outside the court and smiled. After being freed from Su Wangshu's torment and humiliation, I could finally start a new life as a normal human. Qin Yuan. That soft tone that I had heard for 8 years came from behind. It sounded so unfamiliar now. The love had disappeared, and all that was left in my heart was hatred. What do you want? I turned around and looked at the pale woman. She was so weak. Her pride was gone. She looked at me with complicated emotions, and a tear flashed in her eyes. How did we end up like this? How did we end up like this? I glanced at Liu Fei, who was standing next to her. He looked so smug. I laughed sarcastically. Su Wangshu was always like that, never seeing her. Oh, mistakes. During our 8 years together, I believed that she had loved me, or maybe she still loved me now. But she was always willful, always arrogant, and always did what she wanted. She squandered my love and never cherished our marriage. Even to this day, she couldn't see her own problems. But I would never tolerate or love her again. This 7-year accident, which had started with love, should also end here. And I also paid a heavy price for my ridiculous love. You're still the same, not willing to repent. After saying that, I turned and left. Su Wangshu was furious. She and Liu Fei yelled and cursed at me, but I no longer heard them. I was going to walk my own path and get out of this muddy mess. Life will not make things difficult for you, as long as you have the courage to start over. After the divorce, I opened a small shop and started a small business. The name of the shop is Cloudside Shop. My mother-in-law had told me this name before. She said that if she hadn't gotten pregnant with Su Wangshu at a young age, she also wanted to live a life like in the books. Unfortunately, she never got to realize that dream. But it's okay now. I will fulfill her wish for her. In the blink of an eye, 2 years passed. But as soon as I walked out the door, I saw Su Wangshu. She had disappeared from my life for 2 years. I thought I would never see her again. But today, she appeared in front of me. When I saw her again, my eyes were still cold. I didn't say anything and tried to walk around her. But she took a step forward and hugged me. Qin Yuan, please forgive me. I know I was wrong. Do I need to? I said coldly. Qin Yuan, don't be like this. I'm really scared. I don't have a mother anymore, and I can't lose you. Looking at Su Wangshu, I laughed. Scared? So you know what fear is? But if you know what fear is, then why did you have to accompany Liu Fei when your mother needed you the most? But if you know what fear is, then why did you give your mother's life-saving kidney to Liu Fei? When I didn't say anything, Su Wangshu started screaming like a madwoman. Say something. I laughed and pushed her hand away. I looked at her with cold eyes. Say something? What do you want me to say? Forgive you? Do you deserve my forgiveness? After saying that, I turned around and left. She lunged forward and grabbed my leg, looking at me with a pleading face. Qin Yuan, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I promise you, I will never have anything to do with Liu Fei again. Let's start over. I will listen to you from now on. Please forgive me. Okay? I beg you. Su Wangshu was crying, her eyes bloodshot. But my heart felt like it was being stabbed with a knife. She knew everything. She understood everything. She just didn't want to admit it until it was too late. I had told her countless times that I was extremely dissatisfied with Liu Fei's presence. But she always told me that they were just friends. What would I have to do with it if they had something going on? Can you, as a man, not be so petty? Over the years, I had gotten tired of hearing those words. I thought she didn't understand, but I didn't realize that she understood everything. But why did she have to understand the simplest truths when it was already too late? Looking at the crying Su Wangshu, I could only feel disgust, nothing else. Because it didn't matter anymore. For a heartless person like her, being heartless was already my greatest grace. I pushed her away and closed the door without saying a word. I saw Su Wangshu again half a year later. At that time, I had been forced to return home to inherit the family business, and I became the CEO of the Qin Group. The first thing I did after becoming the CEO was to attend a top-level banquet in the South Sea commercial world. As soon as I arrived, I saw Su Wangshu. At this time, she was standing stiffly, holding Liu Fei's arm, doing her duty as an accessory for Liu Fei. To show off, in the corner of the banquet, there were groups of people gathered. They were looking at Liu Fei enviously and talking in low voices. This bastard is really good at Hongpan women. If he hadn't tricked Su Wangshu into selling off her family's assets, he wouldn't have been able to get this big project. The Su family deserves it. They believed. Such a snake in the grass. That's what you get for being nouveau riche. They can't see the true colors of this kind of trash. Have you heard? The Qin family's only son has been found not too long ago. You mean the Qin family from South Sea, the richest family? I've heard about it. He's someone with real power. You can't beat him in a bid. Is he that great? Has anyone seen what the Qin family's son looks like? You'll see him later. They said that the banquet was for him. The whispers continued in the corner. Liu Fei, who was in the center of the venue, also mentioned the Qin family's son who never showed his face. He said mysteriously, "President Chun, do you know who I invited to the celebration banquet?" President Chun, who did you invite? Naturally, it's someone from the Qin family. Oh my God, I heard he never attends these kinds of banquets. You were able to invite him? Amazing. I just owe him a favor. Liu Fei smiled brightly, as if he were proud to be able to have a relationship with such a great person. Behind his back, he pinched Su Wangshu and said in a low and harsh voice, "The Qin family's son will be here soon. Don't put on a sour face and embarrass me, or else you'll get it when we get home." Hearing Liu Fei's threat, Su Wangshu shuddered. She tried her best to suppress the tears welling up in her eyes. I understand. The scars under her sleeves throbbed. She trembled and forced a smile. At this moment, the butler at the door announced, "The Qin family's son has arrived." When Liu Fei heard the announcement, his eyes lit up, and he picked up his wineglass and walked towards the door. The arrival of the Qin family's son is an honor for this place. Quickly, the door opened, and Liu Fei's face changed drastically when he saw the person standing at the door. "Qin Yuan? How is it you?" "Qin Yuan?" Su Wangshu looked up in disbelief. "Why can't it be me?" I stared straight at Liu Fei's twisted face and said coldly, "No, impossible." Liu Fei's forehead veins were popping. He clenched his teeth. "There must be some mistake. How could it be you? Tell me, how did you deceive the Qin family to let you in? I'm going to find old Master Qin and expose you." I took a step forward, stood in front of him, looked at his crazed state, and said coldly, "Not only me, but I'm going to give you a big gift today." Under my pressure, he stepped back, his teeth clenched. "What are you going to do?" I smiled but didn't speak. The scene had already erupted when I stepped into the banquet. Most of the entrepreneurs in the city had met me before, and they all looked shocked. If I remember correctly, isn't that the former son-in-law of the Qin family? Yes, that's him. I didn't expect him to be the Qin family's only son. The Qin family must be regretting it now, right? They chose a grain of sesame but lost a watermelon. And that sesame was poisonous. Su Wangshu let go of Liu Fei's arm and stared at me. "Qin Yuan, did you come for me? You're the Qin family's only son?" Even now, Su Wangshu was still presumptuous. I didn't give her any attention and just looked at my watch. "It's time." Liu Fei said stiffly, "What's time for?" As soon as Liu Fei finished speaking, The messages on the phones of the entrepreneurs in the room started going off. What? The Liu construction company has cut corners and went bankrupt? They even cut corners in construction? This is going to kill someone. Look at the news. The government has called out the Liu family and has permanently terminated their collaboration. The Liu family is finished. This $30 billion project ended up in the hands of the Qin family. Amidst the discussion, Liu Fei took out his phone with trembling hands and looked at the information with disbelief. The Liu family, who had been deemed to be violating regulations, was done for. The phone slipped from Liu Fei's hand. He was full of despair. Qin Yuan. He suddenly fell to his knees and grabbed my legs in a panic. I was wrong. I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have tried to steal Su Wangshu from you. I'll kowtow to you. Please forgive me. I really know I was wrong. I'll return her to you right now. I'll return her to you right now. I looked coldly at Liu Fei, who was kneeling in front of me, frantically kowtowing to me until his forehead was bruised and bleeding. Liu Fei, this is only the first step. We're not done yet. After saying that, I turned and left. However, my sleeve was grabbed again. I turned around and saw Su Wangshu looking at me with anticipation, her face full of joy. Qin Yuan, didn't you come to take me away? Take you away? I looked at her in disbelief and laughed. Su Wangshu, everything that's happening now is what you deserve. From the moment you gave your mother's kidney to Liu Fei, you were doomed to be like this. You can be with Liu Fei forever. I shook off her hand. Don't ever try to touch me again. I find it disgusting. Hearing my last words, Liu Fei seemed to realize something. He suddenly stood up and grabbed Su Wangshu's arm tightly. Wangshu, there's no problem with your family's company, right? Then I can use your company to rise again. It's not impossible. You're not allowed to leave me. Su Wangshu screamed and struggled desperately. You mad man. I want to go find Qin Yuan. Let me go. He won't abandon me. All the noise was cut off by the closed doors, and I turned around and left, expressionless. After everything had settled down, I brought a medical kit to my mother-in-law's grave. After a brief silence, I placed the kit in front of her tomb. Mom, this is the kidney that should have belonged to you. I got it. Back for you. I sat down in front of her grave and slowly told her about everything that had happened recently. I told her that I had taken revenge for her, and I had opened a cloudside shop in her name. As for me, Su Wangshu's pretty face appeared in my mind, then disappeared. Mom, I will live a good life alone and take good care of myself. Don't worry about me. And I didn't dare to say love again.